Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in, whether you're live or on the replay. So this is our 4th episode of the Live Health Talks, which has been organised and by Thriving Communities. Yeah, I see. Oh, we've got another one joining. I'm just going to admit. And we are very grateful that we've got the expertise of the dietitian team of Aneurin Bevan University Health Board. So that's Claire, Godfrey and Matthew Jenkins. Thank you very much for giving us your time and your expertise. And I'm pretty excited about this because we're going to learn lots of things and important, nutrition is such an important part of our health on a day-to-day basis, and we can get some practical tips as well. And, in terms of planning your meals and also doing things on a budget if need be, because we know we're all facing a bit of a cost of living crisis. So I'm going to make now Claire host. She's going to start us off and then she's going to hand over to a colleague, Matthew. So thank you all. I'll just make her host now.
No, she made yours,
I was going to say, if you're joining, please put your mics on mute so that we can hear Claire and not have the background noise. Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay, hello everybody. Oh, got it on the wrong side. So welcome to our food and nutrition talk. So what we're going to cover this afternoon, the main aim is so that we can all understand a little bit more about the components of a balanced diet. So the areas we want to cover is an introduction to the Eatwell guide, explore ways to make meals more in line with the Eatwell guide, create an awareness of mood around food and eating on a budget. If there are any other areas that people would like us to cover, then you can or put it into the chat and we can try and make sure we cover that. The session's about 45 minutes, so we should be finished around 1:45. We'll try and finish early enough so that you've got some time to ask questions. But at any point, if you've got questions, you can put them in the chat, and even if we run out of time, we can still answer them and you can come back and look for it. Okay, so why do we eat? Why do we eat? We were going to put this on a Mentimeter, but because a lot of you will be watching this recorded, we've got this up here. So these are all the various reasons. Eating is very complex. Obviously, we need to eat to survive, to give us energy, to grow, repair. But there's all those other reasons why we eat. It's for socializing, celebration, pleasure, enjoyment, and all those things. And as dietitians, we really appreciate that because obviously I'm just the same as everyone else, and I eat for all the same reasons. But we sometimes eat for comfort as well. Or even out of boredom as well. I don't think that's on there. So there's all sorts of reasons why we eat. So one question I wanted you just to think about is, what does healthy eating mean to you? Because it means something different to everyone. I'm sure how I think of healthy eating might be different to Matthew sitting next to me, or any of you at home or on there. If you want to, those that are here now live, you can put in the chat what you think healthy eating means to you. Is there a response? Yeah. So perfect. Yes, having a balanced diet. That's exactly what I would say. Spot on. Wonderful. Okay, so this is the Eatwell guide. It's the UK's national guidelines for eating. All countries have their own versions. It's made up. It's for the government to promote, but it was the research was done independently, and this has got foods that we commonly eat in the UK. Has anyone seen the Eatwell guide before? And if so, where have you seen it? You can just put in the chat if anyone has. Okay, notes, we need to promote it more. So, although it's a plate, this isn't what you should be, this is not what we're saying you should be eating at every meal. This is over a day or even over a week. So, and this is all the components here on this plate make up a balanced diet. So the green section is fruits and vegetables. The yellow section are carbohydrates rather, potatoes. So potatoes are in there because they're not as nutrient dense as the other ones that go in the fruit and vegetables. So rice, pasta, so all the starchy carbohydrates are there in yellow. The purple section, which is tiny and there's an extra, is oils and spreads. And they are the unsaturated oils and spreads rather. So generally unsaturated oils and spreads come from plant-based sources, although palm oil and coconut oil are saturated. And then we've got our dairy and alternatives. So we've got milk, yogurts, cheeses, and then all the soy. So we've got cow's milk, but then you've got almond milk, soya milk, oat milk, and those things are in there. And then the pink section is beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. And what the Eatwell Guide is trying to encourage everyone to do is to eat more beans and pulses rather than just thinking about protein as meat. And 2 portions of fish a day. We are going to dive into this all separately. This is just an overview slide. Then we've got some poor old foods that aren't even allowed on the plate. And they are to eat less often and in smaller amounts. And you can see tomato sauces, ice cream crisps, chocolate cakes, biscuits. They've got a high fat, salt or sugar content. They're there to eat less often and in smaller amounts. The Eatwell Guide, there's nothing off limits. And then there's the drinking in the top 8 cups of fluids a day. But as I say, we'll go into more detail. So here's our fruits and vegetables. So the aim is for 5 portions a day. I don't know whether anyone wants to, whether anyone's brave enough to put up their hand to say if they think they manage to have 5 portions of fruits and vegetables a day. Or sometimes, not every day, all depends. And so, can you see the hand model? Shall I? Or can you? Is everyone? Let me move that over there. Ah, there we are. So we've got a handle model here. This is actually taken off the British Heart Foundation website, and it's really, really useful way because we can tell you that a portion of fruit and vegetables is about 80 grams, but that doesn't mean an awful lot to everybody. So a portion of fruit is about a handful, and vegetables is a double handful. And the vegetables is the biggest portion size that we're going to talk about. So we want 5, and then it doesn't count if you eat the same fruit and vegetables all day, every day. We need to try and eat as many different types as we can, and then the term we use is eat a rainbow. And one piece of advice is, because we're all routine, well, we're not all routine, but we tend to buy similar things when we go shopping. Maybe try and pick up something that you haven't tried before, so a fruit or vegetable, and see if you like it. Sometimes when we try foods, we don't like them the first time, but we'd always advise try again, because that's quite normal not to like something on the first time. It can take up to 10 times. I just think of a food like an olive. I'm pretty sure I didn't like olives when I first tried them, but I love them now. Why we need fruit and vegetables is for our vitamins and minerals. So vitamin A, C, and E, ACE, but it's got all the different vitamins and minerals are in there, and fibre. which is really important. You might have heard the term gut biome. It's quite a trendy term now as well, but that helps with their, so for fruits and vegetables. So the next section was the starchy carbohydrates. So we've got potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, and other starchy carbohydrates. Now a portion size of these is, so in here you can see it's like a fish size. And it's a little bit varied how many portions you should have a day of these. They say 6 to 9, which is a big variance. And some people may not even have 6. But if you think about it, it all depends on how you know, your height and your makeup and how much physical activity you engage in a day. And it might be different for days that you're more physical. You may need more, since starchy carbohydrates provide us with energy, and that's the main reason the body needs them, and also B vitamins. And if we eat wholemeal varieties, then fibre as well. So when you have a pasta dish, you may have 2 fists full of carbohydrates on your plate, and that's okay. But so it's between 6 and 9 portions. So dairy and alternatives aim for 3 portions a day. And a portion size, it's not on there. So for it's 200 mils of milk and 80 grams of yogurt. It's like quite a small yogurt. And for cheese, we haven't got the hand model. It's not very big. It's about this size. If you can see,
it's big, it's slightly different. Go back to.
Oh yes, yeah. We'll go back. Ah, there we are. Yes. So the cheese, you can see the cheese. That's actually a bit smaller than that, though. It's only the tops of your 2 fingers. So, but what we say for cheese is if you grate it, it seems to go further. So you can have if you cut your portion of cheese to this size, to the tops of your 2 fingers, and then grate it, it'll look a lot bigger. So you can put it in a sandwich. And why we need the dairy and alternatives is the calcium for our bones and teeth, and also it does have quite a lot of protein in as well. When we're thinking about absorbing calcium, we need to have vitamin D. So it doesn't matter how much calcium we intake. If we don't have enough vitamin D in our system, then we won't absorb it. Now, vitamin D is a difficult one. There's not that many foods that you can get it from, but the main source of us being able to absorb this vitamin D is from the sunlight. So we don't, in the Eatwell guide, doesn't advise taking any supplements at all, apart from vitamin D. So the government does advise between October and March, we should all take a supplement of vitamin D, because in this country, we don't tend to get enough sunlight, and especially those people that don't go out very much, then perhaps you should be taking vitamin D supplements throughout the whole year. If you're not getting out so much. Okay. Has anyone got any questions? No? Okay. So beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. So we have aim for 2 to 3 portions a day. So if you eat animal products or meat, then 2 portions. If you're vegetarian or vegan, then you should be aiming to have 3 portions a day. So the portion sizes are slightly different all depending on what type of protein you're having. So for meat, it's quite a small portion. And the other thing to think about the hand model is your hands tend to be the right size for your body. So my palm size is actually smaller than Matthew's, isn't it? But it's about palm size. So red meat, in this country, so from the National Nutrition Survey, we know that we do consume too much red meat, and there are some health implications for that. So try and spread out, and for cost as well. Add, if you're having a stew, say for example with beef, add in beans and pulses. And it makes your beef go further, but also means you're eating less meat as well. So the government are encouraging us to eat more beans and pulses as an alternative to the other meats. So fish, we recommend you have 2 portions of fish a week, and one of those portions should be oily fish to get your omega-3. So oily fish, mackerel, sardines, not tuna. Tuna's still good, so eat tuna, don't stop eating it, but it's not classified as an oily fish. So it's the mackerels and sardines, salmon, and those are the oily fishes, so the ones you get tinned. So those once a week. And the other types that aren't mentioned here is obviously tofu, soya, and eggs. Are all good sources of proteins. I think I don't think nuts are on there, are they? No. So nuts as well, good source of protein and oil, healthy. When we talk about nuts, though, not salted nuts, ones just raw nuts like almonds. And again, it's a variety. The message around the healthy, balanced diet is always eating a variety of different foods. And we just always encourage you to eat abundantly, to try different foods. And that way you're going to ensure you get all the vitamins, minerals, and the macronutrients such as proteins that you need. Oils and spreads. Fish, yes, no. So sorry, there was just a question about if you don't like oily fish. And yeah, I come across a lot of people don't like oily fish. And if you're vegetarian as well, you're not going to eat oily fish. So you can eat the chia seeds and things like that instead to get your omega-3. That's what I have some of those in my house. And yes, of course, you can eat tuna. It's a good, healthy food to have. Yeah. So, but you can eat, replace some of those, the goodness that you might get from oil and fish from seeds and nuts. So seeds and nuts. So again, unprocessed seeds and nuts is something that we, for a long time, we stopped kind of eating, but they are really, really good for us. Oils and spreads, they were that tiny little section. Obviously, they're really nutrient, that they're calorie dense or energy dense, but they haven't got. But we do need oils and spreads because they provide us with fats, and fats are essential, but just in small amounts because they're very energy dense. So again, unsaturated fats. Which are unsaturated are the healthy fats, and they generally come from plant-based. Apart from coconut oil and palm oil are saturated. So just to remember that. So rapeseed oil, and that's good again for your omega-3. Saying about what you get from oily fish. Olive oil is amazing. It's got lots of polyphenols as well for antioxidants and things like that, and sunflower oil. So those are and if you're having spreads, so butter in this, butter doesn't come into this one. Butter would be off the plate in the high fat because it's saturated fat. So butter isn't here. This is the other types of spreads. Someone gave me an idea because I have olive oil spread. And I thought I just put, rather than having the spread, which is quite processed still, to just put a little bit of olive oil on my toast and then my marmalade. I tried it and it was quite nice, but it's yeah. So that's what I mean. I still look out and trying new things. Okay, and these foods, obviously, we're not saying don't have these foods. Just eat them less often and in smaller amounts. So if you love chocolate, maybe just have a quarter of a bar rather than the whole one. We're going to talk about, because sometimes the reasons we eat chocolate are different reasons, and we'll be covering that in the mood and food in a little while. I'm just looking at the time. What am I doing? Okay. Fluids, so 6 to 8 cups a day. So we are made up of water ourselves as humans. So they say when we were born, we were 70% water, and we slowly dry out as we get older, but we still need to drink plenty. So what counts as healthy fluids? So water obviously is the healthiest fluid. Milk is good. Teas, coffees. It says fruit juices. We haven't mentioned those, and smoothies. So fruit juice does count of 1 of your 5 a day as well, but only a tiny amount, 150 mils, because it's got so much sugar in the and the same as smoothies, just once a day, 150 mils. The reason for that is because they've been processed and the fruits have been squeezed. The sugar is released out the cells, and now the sugar acts like it's a sugary drink. But they've still got plenty of nutrients in, so we still say they're okay, but just once a day for the fruit juices and smoothies, and just 150 mils. And then we say be mindful of sugary drinks, obviously for our teeth, the calories. Fizzy drinks also erode our teeth because they're acidic, so just to be aware for dental health as much as anything for drinks. Okay. So the tea plate is a model. So we've seen the Eatwell guide. That's what we should be eating in a whole day or a whole week. So this is more of a guide for how to sort out your plate for a meal. So you can see you've got half the plate is fruits and vegetables. Now, you don't want to eat all your fruit maybe with your dinner, but you can just think about that if you have fruit for an afters or a dessert. So you can put that there. So a quarter of your plate is your whole grain, starchy veggies, and a quarter of the plate is protein, and you need to fit in dairy, although it's not on the tea plate. Dairy somewhere there as well. So it could be a milk drink, or it could be that you're having cheese included in your meal, but you would take that out of your protein section, if you like. I didn't mention about cheese as well, yeah, because obviously cheese is really good for us, got lots of protein, calcium in it, but we do recommend lower fat cheese, because obviously cheese is about 40% fat. Really good for us, hence why we have just the small amount. And we've got there again, eat a rainbow. So keep trying different. I know we're adults, but we just keep trying different foods. So the key messages, and then I'll hand you over to Matthew, is try and aim to eat at least 5 portions a day of fruit and vegetables. The World that's the key message for the UK. The World Health actually advised 7, but when we look at the UK, that's a little bit too far out of our reach, they thought. So they say to aim for 5. Base all meals on starchy carbohydrates. So every meal should have some starchy carbohydrate on. Remember to have your 3 dairy portions a day as well, and choose the lower fat, lower salt options. Eat some beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins, including 2 portions of fish a week. Choose unsaturated oils and spreads, and eat in smaller amounts because they've got they're calorie dense. And to drink 6 to 8 cups or glasses of fluid a day. And if consuming high fat and sugar foods, then we eat those in smaller amounts. And those high, just to mention, those foods are generally the processed foods, which do form a big part of the Western diets, just because they're available to us, and that's why we eat them. But if we would never say stop eating processed foods. What we say is try and incorporate all these other foods, the 5 portions of fruit and vegetables and things like that. And I didn't mention, did I? So the 5 portions can be fresh, frozen, or tinned as well, because obviously sometimes fresh is more expensive. So I eat a lot of frozen fruit and vegetables as well, because it's just more cost effective. Any questions you can put in the chat? Is there anything? Otherwise, I'll hand over.
Should I take yours?
Yes, yeah. We're just going to swap seats to decide that's easier.
Hi everyone. We're just going to move on now. So we're going to have a look at some meals and how we can make them more complete and more in line with the Well guide. So as we can see, we've got some of these foods. I would make it a bit more interactive, but obviously we've only got a couple on, so I'm just going to give you the answers straight away. So if we were to have white toast, looking at this, we could make it whole grain or seeded, obviously for our fibre. Add some fruit, so that doesn't include jam, because jam actually comes under foods outside of the plate because it's so high in sugar. So maybe, a banana or something like that on there. As we can see, obviously underneath then there's a photo. We've got some blueberries on there, some raspberries, and apply a small sliver of low fat or / plant-based spread and swap the small amount of low fat peanut butter. Okay, so as we can see on the top photo, it's got quite a bit of butter on there, so we need to avoid these saturated fats if we can. On to the next one then, bowl of cereal. So go for lower sugar cereals with fruit and fibre, some granola, maybe some muesli, stuff like that. Add your own fruit and nuts and seeds then. So, chop some strawberries over the top, maybe some blueberries, some banana. It could be like a Weetabix potentially with some fruit on. I think a lot of people add sugar to these cereals, but we need to get, I understand that we probably like that sweet sort of side to the cereal, but it's important that we get that maybe through better means in fruit. And as we look at the Weetabix, as we look at the Weetabix as well, get some yogurt on there maybe, make it into a bit more of a meal, a bit more of a complete meal, sorry. So if you move on then, obviously we got things like pizza, potatoes and sandwiches then. So there's a lot of foods that a lot of us will be eating. But with pizzas, try and get a thinner base and make it whole grain. So, often if we have a takeaway, we might have a pizza takeaway. That's not going to be very healthy, but pizzas can be quite healthy if we make our own. So if we have a whole grain base, even a wrap as a base, a whole grain wrap, is a bit more cost effective, maybe a bit easier for people who haven't got the cookery skills. Add some low fat cheese. So I think there's some good alternatives on the market now where you can get like half fat cheese and it's still pretty good. Add lots of veg. So as you can see in the top example, there's hardly any vegetables on there, so we can get some, you can go crazy with vegetables on pizza. You can get onions, obviously the tomato base. You can get, if controversially, you might put a bit of pineapple on there or something. I like sweet corn and mushrooms on mine personally. Try adding some lean chicken or some lean cuts of meat. So obviously chicken's normally one of the best options on pizza, and a bit more cost effective than cuts of beef. And obviously speaking about getting our own protein, there's no reason you can't put a bit of beans on there, get some pulses on there maybe, and then add a side salad and half the pizza. So I don't know whether there's been a bit of a trend recently in restaurants where they might give you a little bit less pizza and you get a salad either in the middle or on the side. So I think this is a trend that I think is pretty good. So you're having a bit more of a complete plate. Something we could do with potatoes, add to a sweet potato. The sweet potato actually counts as one of our 5 a day. Again, add some vegetables, side salad, get some broccoli on the side, or lots of options in terms of veg. A side salad as well. Add tuna, sweet corn and onion maybe, or something like beans, baked beans and cheese is a good option. Again, if we've got low fat cheese. And use low fat spread sparingly or not at all. Okay, so I don't always need to have that spread on there, particularly if you're having something like beans and cheese. I think that's moist enough personally. So, these are good alternatives to stop you using so much fat in your meals. With the sandwich then, we can swap the white bread for whole grain or seeded bread, or a wrap, maybe a whole grain wrap. Again, add more salad and veg. So get some lettuce and some onion, maybe some tomato in there. Use little to no spread again, or as Claire touched on, maybe, if you want to try what Claire did and put the olive oil on there, you can have a go at that.
Tiny amount.
Yeah, or maybe some hummus on there. Obviously, there's olive oil in the hummus, and you get some protein in the chickpeas then, so it's a bit more of a rounded meal there. So there's a lot of options. It's just about being a little bit creative, I think, sometimes with some of these foods. So again, we've got probably some hearty meals here, some bigger meals. So if you're making a sausage dinner, potentially add onions to the gravy. Use low salt gravy granules. Again, just keep that veg in, keep adding those veg. I think particularly with meals like this, it does lend itself to having those veg on the side, and I think it's quite traditional how we eat in Britain to have your broccoli, your carrots, and your sweet corn maybe on the side. If adding milk or spread, use low fat. So we recommend green or red milk. So try and keep that to a minimum. Something we could look at as well is obviously sausages can be quite high in fat. So if we can have a look at maybe chicken sausages like heck sausages or something like that, or lower fat pork sausages, I think that's always a good option. In the curry then, serve with brown or whole grain rice. So again, we're getting that fibre in. Use lean chicken or swap for beans/chickpeas. Okay, so I think curries are very often quite a good opportunity to not eat meat and have these alternatives like chickpeas and beans in there. Make the sauce using tinned tomatoes, onions, garlic, spices, and then add chicken and veggies. Okay, so I understand that a lot of curries come in a ready-made jar. These aren't going to be as healthy if you make it from scratch and make it with these healthy ingredients like tinned tomatoes and onions. You're getting a lot of your fibre a day in there and not necessarily realising it sometimes. So, sort of if you can base a sauce on a veg. Sorry, I've lost my place there. If you can get your fruit and veg through your meals, and you might not realise it, I think that's a really good way of getting it in, particularly as well if you're cooking for children or young people. Adding veg into things like this, where they might not necessarily realise that they're getting those foods in, will bump up their fibre a day. With the spaghetti bolognese then, again, whole grain spaghetti. Make your sauce from scratch, similar messages, and I think particularly in bolognese we can add a lot of veggies, and I don't think people necessarily realise what's in there. You can chop it nice and finely, like your carrots, maybe celery and stuff like that throughout it, and it really help boost that veg for the day. And then stick to lean beef. Okay, so I'll swap for turkey mince. I know there's pork mince on the market now, that's 5%. And I know a lot of traditional spaghettis do use a bit of pork mince. You also got chicken mince as well. So there's a lot of options now. I think we're quite lucky in the modern world where we've got a lot of alternatives. But trying to avoid the sort of 20% minces. There's a lot of fat in there, and I think if you've ever cooked them, you see all the oil, all the fat drains out of it. So if you can avoid these types of meats, that would be beneficial. So now we're going to move on to food and mood. So I think food is a real big topic. Obviously, one of my key things I always say is everybody eats. So everybody does it, and I think it plays into a bigger factor than just your physical health. I really do think it affects your mental health a lot. So one of the things we recommend doing is maybe keep a diary. So it could be a food diary, but then related to your feelings. So this might help with any sort of unplanned eating, any eating, sort of comfort eating. So you might realize your triggers. There might be some triggers in there that you think, oh, when this happens, I'm prone to, go into the cupboard and getting a chocolate bar, right? So I think if we can avoid the triggers and sort of understand what's affecting our mental health, and then what then leads to that comfort eating, I think that would really help. On a side note to that, I know journaling and sort of keeping diaries, particularly around gratitude and stuff, can have a real big effect on your mood in general. Identify your hunger cues. So if your stomach's growling, you've got low energy, difficulty focusing, feel a bit shaky, I think if we're at that point, then we've probably gone too far sometimes, particularly if we're getting a bit shaky, we can't focus. So it's about potentially planning out your meals. I mean, that diary then will come into effect as well, because we'll understand when we're eating. And I know a lot of people, that sort of term called hangry, people get hungry and get angry, because that is something that does happen. So I think it's about planning and stopping those sort of feelings arising, and I think understanding it as well. So, you know, if you're in a bad mood, have you eaten? Potentially not. So I think it's about understanding that if you are feeling like that, try and recognize these cues, and it might stop you getting in such a bad mood then. So manage your triggers, plan ahead. So keep a regular meal pattern. So that could be timings. It could be planning your week on a Sunday. It might be, right, I need to, you know, might have something on a Tuesday night, so I need to cook double on a Monday or something. So batch cooking, all of these sort of strategies to manage your hunger and stop. I think a real killer for a lot of people is when people are unplanned eating. You might stop off in a McDonald's or whatever. You might get a fast food. You might get a takeaway. From, you know, a health and a money point of view, that is not ideal. So I think it's important that we plan it. Ensure you get enough sleep. So obviously sleep is a vital part of your health, ensuring you get in, you know, 7 to 9 hours a day. And then sleep actually regulates hormones to do with hunger. So ghrelin, the hunger hormone, is regulated when you sleep. So if you don't get enough sleep, there has been association where you end up eating more. Checking with your body. So practice mindfulness. And I think that's a really quite key one. I know a lot of people hear mindfulness, maybe switch off. But I think it's a key one to be able to be mindful when you're eating. So don't eat in front of the telly. Be present, be there, and, you know, experience the food, taste the food. And I think one, it helps with the stopping cravings and hunger, but two, you sort of enjoy and get pleasure from the food. I think there's a bit of a culture now where a lot of people don't eat, or don't only eat. They'll be on their phones, they'll be on the watching telly. So I think it's a key message there is enjoy your food, make a bit of an occasion of it. Obviously families, that sort of family dynamic, I know has changed a lot recently, but traditionally we eat in around the table. I think, you know, talking, being present is a real big one, I think, for food and mood. Recognize situations that might trigger emotional eating for you. So that's going to be different for everyone. It might be the morning commute. If there's a bit of, for example, my day today started off with a load of traffic. I might have come in and thought, right, I need a biscuit and a coffee straight away. Okay, so, you know, managing that, I had a piece of fruit in the car and I had that piece of fruit instead. So it's about being prepared, knowing where those triggers could come, because I know my commute at the moment is difficult. Okay, non-food alternatives. So read a book, listen to music, take yourself for a walk, have a bath, shower, paint nails. I'm a big advocate for exercise. Get out, get doing something. Just use a better means of coping. I think that's the key. There is, you know, we'd all like to sit in and maybe indulge in a bar of chocolate, but I think there are more healthy alternatives, and you'll feel better after that. So if you go for a walk rather than having that chocolate bar, I can guarantee after that you'll feel a lot better, rather than maybe feeling that guilt that you've had something that you shouldn't have had. Maybe. Obviously, I'd like to stress at this point as well that there's no such thing as a bad food, but it's about managing when we have it, and is it worth it at times, or are we using it as a bit of a, you know, coping mechanism and cloaking things. Limit distractions while eating. Obviously, I touched on that just now, but make sure we're tasting the food, smelling it, looking at it, you know, feeling it, use the 5 senses. So you're at one with the food. I know that sounds, you know, some people might not realize that they literally eat in and don't even realize that they not even tasting the food sometimes. Take your time, don't rush your meals. Again, feeds into being mindful. Enjoy the food, it's an occasion. I think a lot of European cultures, food is such a big thing for their families, and they base their days around food. So I think the more we can get into that, the more it's going to improve our mood. Keep a bowl of chopped veg and stuff and snacks ready in the fridge. So again, my example this morning where I had a piece of fruit instead of something I could have had a lot worse, maybe a cake on the way in, is a lot better. So it's again, about being prepared, and having those things. So when you get to the point where you need food or you just want something to eat, that is a better choice. Instead of going for food with friends, watch a film, go for a walk, or find a beach. Okay, so I know socializing can be done around food a lot of the time, but when we're going out, it can be expensive, can be quite uncontrolled eating, because we can, the menu in front of you might fancy the whole menu sometimes and order too much food. So I think it's important that we find alternatives to going out for food. Or I know a lot of people go for coffee and they'll end up having a big wedge of cake with it. So, maybe grab that coffee and go for a walk with the coffee. You're not there then in front of, this big glass box of cakes, and, it's very tempting when it's put in front of you. So I think it's important that we manage that. So I just want to touch on a couple of other things as well. I know, like Claire mentioned, oily fish. I know omega-3 has been associated with improving low mood, so it might be a consideration. Obviously, if we're not feeling as healthy as well, we might be not getting enough iron. We might become anemic and feel tired all the time. And it's important that we're fueling. If you're exercising, you need to be fueling properly and eating properly. So I think a lot of people stop eating when they're trying to lose weight. That is counterproductive. You're going to end up in a worse mood, and then it could end up to more sort of comfort eating and stuff like that. So I think it's important that we get enough carbohydrates, we feel energetic, we're eating enough iron through our red meat and our green veg and stuff like that. So I think it's important that we're eating a balanced diet, because it does, the way you feel about yourself and your energy will affect your mood. So healthy eating on a budget. Failure to plan is planning to fail. Okay, so I think that is one of the key messages to take away from today is planning. So unplanned eating isn't good, both from a health point of view and a budget point of view. So if you've got to stop off and buy something quickly, whether it's in a supermarket, you might grab a sandwich, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Okay, so I've recently designed a program, and it could save you about £15 to £20 a week if you literally make your own sandwiches for the course of the week. Okay, so I think it's important. It doesn't got to be anything fantastic that you plan that you're making, but something as simple as sandwich could save you a lot of money. Create a weekly meal plan. So you might try to plan that you use certain ingredients more than once. So if you're savvy enough to be able to do that, then you'll end up saving money, because you'll be able to have potentially, you might buy 1 kilo of mince, so 1 kilo of chicken breast, for example, and you might make multiple meals out of that, and in the long run that will save you money, because buying bigger sizes of things are generally cheaper. Try and stick to supermarket owned brands. So I know there's a lot of sort of premium brands, and understanding how to sort of read the price per kilogram or price per item and compare them, and making sure you're getting the best deal. So very often the own brands will be the best, but not always. It might be an offer on or something. It's about being savvy enough to have a look, being mindful when we're shopping about getting those good deals that we can get, not just buying whatever you buy. Oh, I normally buy this, so I'll buy this time. It might have gone up in price and you might be paying double for whatever it is. Okay, so just be mindful about what you're shopping and what you're buying. Don't shop when hungry. I think that's a big one for me, because whenever I come home after being shopping hungry, I come home with absolutely everything I could have bought. I think that's a really important one, is plan when you're going to shop, and try and do it when you've had food quite soon to that time. Okay, so you will end up buying more snacks, more foods that are high in fat and sugar, because you just see they're there on the shelf. You pick them up when you're hungry, so just try and plan that around that. And then you can get a lists app, so just shopping lists on your phone and stuff, or whatever you've got. If you're going to use a notepad and pen, just make sure you have a list, so you don't veer too much off that list. And I know a lot of people think, oh, I might have something nice, and that's absolutely fine, but don't go too far off that list. Shop to the season. So certain foods come in and out of season. When they're out of season, they're often imported then, so then they cost a lot more. Okay, so try and eat to the seasons, because that will save you money. And then ask about the end of, I can't even see that one.
End of day reductions.
Yeah. So just everyone knows it. the big yellow section in your supermarkets normally. Just go and have a little look. I often buy salmon when it's on offer there. You can always get some good deals in there. So just keep an eye out and just sort of know at the end of the day that things are generally reduced. Yeah, so batch cooking, things like air fryers, slow cookers, all good options for cooking on a budget. So not using your oven as much. So I think using your oven costs about 70 pence more per hour than just using an air fryer. Okay, so just be a bit savvier. If you're using your oven, make sure you put in more than one thing in them at the time. Batch cook and maybe freeze them. Again, that will help with unplanned eating as well. And bring your own snacks, pack lunches, all good ways of saving money. So I think probably best we wrap up there. I know we're coming to about the time that we said we'd do. So thank you for listening. I know there's only a couple of you, but are there any questions? No. Wrap up there then.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Yes, can I just sort of jump in at the end there and just say thank you very much. That was really, really, really helpful. And I'm sure we gain a lot of information, and it can help guide us now to having a healthier approach to our eating, what we eat, and obviously our eating habits. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the time you've given us. And
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. Thoroughly enjoyed, and yeah, we'll encourage our participants to look at the recorded session. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for organising.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.